Hey everybody, welcome to Hash It Out. I am RJ, your host, and in this episode, I'll be talking to Brooks Lustig about how his company has handled the increase in demand for cannabis during the coronavirus pandemic and uplifting those in the community who have been put out of work because of the pandemic. We'll also talk a bit about the company's efforts toward increased sustainability. So, without further ado, let's hash it out. My guest today is the COO and co-founder of the cannabis company Seed & Smith. Welcome to the show, Brooks Lustig. Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. Thanks so much for having me, RJ. It's a pleasure to be here.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks so much. I'm stoked to ask you about all the work you've got going on at Seed & Smith. Where are you joining virtually from today?
Virtually from my kitchen here in Louisville, Colorado. It's been difficult with COVID and everything like that, but we're really trying to. Let me say this: we're really fortunate to be an essential business, and so everything we can do in our power to make sure we stay that way and make sure that we keep all of our staff and customers safe and everything like that. We're trying to do so. Any call that can be done, not from the facility, all that kind of good stuff, usually gets done from my kitchen with, the dog treats over my shoulder.
Totally. I have dog treat. I'm looking at dog treats on top of my fridge right now too, and I think we have the same milk bones. Yeah, we got the same milk bone vibe going on. That's what's up, man.
They love them.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I'm stoked to ask you about how your company has been faring during the coronavirus pandemic. Like you said, having to shift operations to a hybrid model of being at home and on site. But first, let me ask you about your own personal experience, because I understand that you co-founded Seed & Smith in 2014, if I have my dates right, in 2014 after working during the craft beer wave in Balde in the 90s. So tell me what it was like to go from working in that space to working in cannabis, and then what sort of lessons did you sort of take from that to where you are now?
Yeah, no problem. And just a little correction. I never worked in the craft beer space, but I was, heavily involved as a consumer in the
Got you. Okay. Okay. I'm going to have to check with my note writers on that one. Okay, for sure.
Yeah, no problems there.
Gotcha.
I just didn't want, some of these brew guys coming at me and saying, hey, what's going on there?
Totally.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to, kind of be born and raised in Boulder, Colorado. And when we became of drinking age, it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, all that kind of stuff. And what was going on around here, greater Colorado area and everything like that, is a lot of people were getting involved in microbreweries and, so many different companies that had started up. And one of the really neat things that we were able to do is we were able to go sit in these tap rooms and have a beer or two or four or whatever it is. And the brewers were right there. And we quickly made friends with them. And they would often take us and, kind of show us what their process was, what they were working on, and, all the stuff. And I was just kind of so fascinated with, the brewing process and the larger supply chain and everything like that. And just thought it was so cool that they wanted to share that stuff. And, there were a lot of, so there was kind of like the personal thing there. And then a lot of breweries around here, as they got bigger, started having tours, brewery tours to the public. And,
Sure.
We would make an afternoon of it, or we'd make a day of it where we'd go bike riding and, go see 4 different brewery tours and all that stuff. And, I really respected, their transparency and, just the way they wanted to educate, other people to, talk about these exciting things that we were doing. And so when it came to 2014 for cannabis, it was kind of, how do we do that on the cannabis side of things? And, obviously there's a whole host of regulations that make that difficult, and you can't have the exact same model. But ultimately what we did at Seed & Smith is we said, look, some of our core principles when we found this thing are going to be education, are going to be transparency. And that's been a really neat thing. And the result is kind of, COVID notwithstanding here. We've decided to have a tour that is free and open to the public, similar to a brewery tour, that walks customers and patients through, the whole cultivation process, the whole extraction process, and then we show, um, some of the stuff like how packaging works, and you know how shipping and receiving, and some of the not so glamorous side of the business works. And then ultimately we use it as an excuse to kind of push things forward a little bit, and we talk a lot about the history of cannabis. We talk a lot about the racial disparity in cannabis that's been there
Mm,
all along and is still very much there today. And we try and give the public and the customers here some options of things that they can do to help further the cause, whether that's respectfully following the rules in Colorado, all the way up to voting in your respective state, or some resources of if you do want to help further any of these causes, people you can talk to, and how you can get involved.
totally.
So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's a little bit rambly there, but
No, not at all. Not
that's the
at all. I
short
love
version.
that. Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, it's hard to wrap up what you started in 2014, so probably hard to wrap up 5 years or 6 years in that amount of time. Um but I love that you mentioned transparency because I understand that like you said, is such an important aspect to how you want to run your business. Like you said, doing these free tours that really show enthusiasts, the whole process from start to finish, is for now in the cannabis space very unique unto itself. So how important was it for you to bring that sort of enthusiast mentality that you had into the cannabis space?
Yeah, and well, look, and I might add a little bit too there, right? We have a lot of people who are very enthusiastic about the industry, and very excited that it's going. But I'd like to include a larger group in this. I think there's a lot of people that are accepting of the cannabis industry, but a little more timid getting into it, right? Cannabis has been demonized for the majority of my life, and definitely anybody older than me, right? Like the vast majority of their life. And now it's kind of this new thing. And so what we wanted to do is we just kind of wanted to take the covers off, right? Or take the blinders off here and say, all right, here's really what it is, right? Full transparency. This is what we do. It's not a bunch of guys sitting around, getting high watching the grass grow, right?
Right.
It's a very complicated, intensive process to, to kind of keep, crop after crop on these perpetual cycles coming through at high yield levels and high quality levels, and meeting with all the regulations. And we wanted to show the public, about all that. We also wanted to educate them on kind of the basic processes of how this stuff is grown and then extracted and processed, if you will, so that people could really make an informed decision of, this is something I want to participate in, or this is something that isn't for me, right?
Right.
A lot of people before, have this picture of cannabis being grown illicitly in people's basements in the national
Sure.
forest in Mexico, whatever it may be. And I think there's a big group of people who say, I don't want to have any part of that, any way, shape, or form. And so, look, hey, if we can show like that this is the way that this is going to be done moving forward, and it's fully transparent with the public and the regulators and everybody, it might be easier for them to make a choice that says, all right, this is something I'm either interested in supporting or interested in consuming, or anywhere in the spectrum. And so that's kind of where that comes from. And
Totally.
look, I'll tell the full truth here. Every good tour ends in the gift shop, of course, and you know we take full
Yes,
advantage of
indeed.
that.
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah, as you should, as you should. Um, that's so interesting that you mention, um, you know, the idea of um, including the process from start to finish, and then also beyond, the cultivation aspect, looking toward the social aspect. You mentioned addressing racial disparity, addressing social inequity. So when it comes to all of the focuses over at Seed and Smith, what are some of the big goals, or the big projects, or the big aspirations that you and the company have set forth for 2021? What are you looking
Yeah, so
forward
I'm
to?
ultimately, well, we have a couple specific projects which are, quite honestly, more supply chain related
Sure.
in 2021, and I'm happy to talk about those. But ultimately, it comes down to the education and the transparency, and we really kind of hope to kind of be a steward of the industry and do everything we can to push that forward. Like, I want to be that brewer behind the counter, where somebody's saying like, "Wow, it's just like so cool all the stuff that goes into this and their process and whatever it may be, the planning behind it or the science behind it." Right.
Yeah,
That's what I geek out on. And so ultimately I hope to be able to share that with anybody who's willing to listen, you know. Um, to
totally.
kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about some specific things for Seed and Smith for 2021. We've been very fortunate and had a lot of success with our product. That both our flower that comes out of our award-winning cultivation facility and our extracts that come out of the award-winning extraction facility, even though they're just across the hall from each other. And you know, the next step for us is really kind of expanding upon that. And so we are in 2021. We're slated to build a greenhouse um, uh, on this kind of this. We have an empty lot on the side of our property. It's nothing. It's nothing huge, but it's definitely nothing to discount. It's a 8,000 square foot greenhouse. That's you know, it. I want to say it's got most of the bells and whistles, right? We're really
Sure.
trying to look to see how we can replicate this indoor growing process, but instead of creating the sun inside with a bunch of electric lamps here, we're going to try and use that to our advantage here in Denver that gets over 300 days of sunshine a year, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And so how can
Wow.
we make the same or better product, um, a little more socially responsible, right? Or
Wow.
a little
Yeah.
more environmentally responsible, if you will. And so it's really exciting. And don't get me wrong, of course, we're very excited about the additional production and revenue and all that stuff. But personally, I'm geeking out on, you know, how can we build this more efficiently as we can kind of continue to go down this road, and how can we be a steward for the industry to say, okay, here's a more efficient way to grow your crop, or whatever it may be. And so the greenhouse project is a real big deal for us, and that's slated. We're in the design phase right now, and I think we are hoping to finish construction. Oh, September, October. I'm knocking on wood
Wow.
here,
Yeah.
hoping it all goes smoothly. But something like that this year. So that's our real big thing.
Wow. That is awesome. That sounds really, really cool. Uh, um, is first of all, I hope it goes well. First and foremost, and
Thanks.
is the hope maybe, to eventually be able to provide this sort of growing methodology um, to other, dispensaries or even other areas of agriculture, because, you know, sustainable practices of cultivation and farming are, of course, crucial to the longevity of the human species. So,
Yeah, I definitely think so. I don't know if I have any like concrete plans to kind of, push this on everybody else. And
Sure.
and I also don't want to sit here and claim that, what we're doing here, like that. I don't want to claim that we've solved the problem, right? And that,
Of course.
this is the end goal and we're fully sustainable, all that kind of stuff. But I do believe that, where we are today, that, every time you take a step forward, that all, the sustainability needs to be a part of the conversation. And, this cannabis thing in general, one way to look at it is, a real big experiment here, right? And, you know, I hope to show in this greenhouse that, look, we can grow this stuff more sustainably, right? We can save on electricity usage. We can, you can also look at it as how can you get the most yield in the smallest space, right? That's a
Sure.
way of being sustainable. So, say, rather than needing to build whatever 1,000,000 square feet of this stuff, I can get what somebody else has grown in 1,000,000 square feet in three-quarters the size or half the size, or whatever it
Mm,
may be. And therefore using less of the raw materials, less of the inputs, et cetera, et cetera. And so I guess what I would say is it's one link in the chain, right?
totally.
And by continuing to be transparent and by continuing to allow these tours, and we've made a lot of friends in the industry and everything like that over the last 11 years here. And you know finding valuable partners who do want to do this, whether that's in Colorado or in other states across the country. um, we hope to throw our best practices in the mix with everybody else, and hopefully kind of the collective consciousness here. I'm getting a little out there, but the
No,
collective
totally.
consciousness moves towards these best or better practices. And
Absolutely.
hopefully we've written our chapter in the story.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm all for people exploring new ways of sustainability. So that's just super exciting to hear. Um, Let me ask you about how the company is, handling the, the increase in demand and the new, sort of latest wave of cannabis demand and interest and curiosity that has sort of been ushered in during the coronavirus pandemic. Um, Demand for cannabis has skyrocketed. Um, as a result, the Colorado Department of Revenue reported that Coloradans spent over $2 billion on cannabis in 2020. And there's also latest statistics from Headset that show that retail flower prices in California, Colorado, Nevada, and Washington collectively grew 17%. Um, so, how has Seed and Smith been handling this increase in demand during the pandemic, which is sort of juxtaposed with mass closings of a lot of industry sectors?
Yeah, it's been really interesting in a couple different columns here. I'll tell a quick funny story. In Colorado, I'm gonna forget the exact date. Everything got shut down, but I think it was like right before St. Patrick's Day. So mid
Yeah,
March. And there was a big question when everything got shut down, right? The state and the city of Denver had said, hey, we're going to deem all certain things essential, right? Grocery stores, gas stations, right? Urgent cares, all the obvious stuff. And
sure.
there was a real big question of whether or not dispensaries and liquor stores, which for regulatory reasons we've kind of been grouped into the same category, we're going to be deemed official. And each municipality was making its own decisions here. As we all kind of saw with this crazy shutdown. And
Sure.
city of Denver, the mayor came out and held a press conference that he was going to shut everything down, citywide. And a reporter asked him if liquor stores and dispensaries would be on the essential business list. And he kind of rolled his eyes and he said, of course not.
Yeah.
Well, within about 20 minutes, not only did our cannabis store or dispensary, but pretty much every single dispensary in the city, as well as every single liquor store in the city, had a line around the block.
Whew.
It was crazy. And the mayor, to his credit, came back on television a couple hours later and walked his comments back and said, of course dispensaries and liquor stores will be deemed essential. And I have to check, but if that it wasn't our record sales day of all time, it's in the top three, you know,
Sure.
and it just really took off from there pandemic wise. And that's not to say that it's been easy by any means. Our whole kind of regulatory structure and the way we look at dispensaries, it kind of got turned on its head overnight. And
Mm.
there were a ton of emergency regulations approved to help keep people safe, as they're trying to shop for their medicine or their recreational product, whatever it may be. And, a bunch of things got enacted, like we are now allowed to do curbside. I want to say curbside delivery, but just like you could go to a restaurant and they bring your meal out to your
Sure.
car or your truck. We're now allowed to do the same thing, which would have been a big no-no regulatory wise before Corona. We've also had a whole host of kind of transformation here with e-commerce, right? Like now you can view Seed and Smith's entire menu online or on your phone or whatever it may be, and you can actually choose your product there and have that all lined up and be ready and waiting for you when you show up at the store.
Mm.
Because of regulations, our transaction still has to take place on site. That's something that hasn't changed. But cannabis shopping, I could argue now is much more convenient. But that being said, we still allow for people who are new or have questions. You can still come and actually talk to a bud tender and kind of
Sure.
figure out what's going to be best for you and what's going to work for you here. And I really think that a lot of that stuff, I mean, I think it'll kind of go through a couple iterations of change here as knock on wood, things get back to semi-normal or whatever it is. But stuff like curbside and the e-commerce side of stuff, I think it's going to stay. I think, like with a lot of other things with the pandemic, it accelerated some of this stuff. And
Right.
I can tell you right now in Denver and in Boulder, and some of the larger municipalities in Colorado, delivery is on the table, right? And something that was only allowed for specific situations, right? Like you have a medical patient who physically can't get to the store. Like, okay, delivery was allowed for something like that, but for everyday people, things like that, this is something that is going to be on the table now that I think is
Hmm.
likely to stick around. That may not have happened quite so quickly without coronavirus. And the last thing I want to say here is weaving some social equity into all that. Right, like here's an opportunity for a bunch of new types of licenses, right, like delivery
Mm.
licenses and everything like that. And I'd like to commend the city of Denver at least for saying, hey, we are going to make sure that in this new set of licenses and everything like that, we're going to find ways to help people apply and get these that have previously been shut out of the cannabis business. And not only that, but have done time for laws that were written that have now since changed. And so hopefully they can kind of benefit off of some of the things that they were
Mm.
previously either incarcerated for or discriminated against or whatever it may be. And so whereas I know we can't go back and fix the initial dispensary license thing, I think this is a step in that direction
Sure.
to help that. And quite honestly, without the pandemic, that might have taken a lot longer.
Yeah, it's an interesting feeling, isn't it? That, you know, it seemingly had to take a global pandemic to, in some way, facilitate implementing like much needed change and much needed reform and progress. How does that feel for
Yeah,
you to be in that sort of that weird paradox feeling?
you know, it's just for me, it's like interesting, like how interwoven all this stuff is, right?
Sure.
Like, um, and my experience in the cannabis industry, look, before this, grew up in Boulder, Colorado. I'm very, very lucky and very fortunate and everything like that. It's not like I have a trust fund or anything, but, I had the freedom to go do what I wanted to do. And, in my younger days, I wanted to be a ski instructor and ski patroller and, coach kids swimming in the summer, all that good stuff. And then,
Yeah.
cannabis came around and we have the opportunity to do that. And where I'm going with this is that when we got involved with cannabis, we started to see how a lot of these regulations are made and what the system looks like, right?
Mm.
And that was a huge eye opener for me, right? And look, I don't mean to talk dirty about anybody or throw anybody under the bus or everything like that, but watching how licenses get awarded and how regulations get written and changed, and a lot of that is based on people donating money. Um, you know, a lot of
Yeah.
regulations got written because somebody donated money to get them written that way, and not because that was the best thing for the industry or the best thing to move this forward for the most amount of people, things like that. And so
Hmm.
that was a real eye opener, and a great learning experience. And so in my own small way, right, it's how do we kind of fight that system, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so the example of coronavirus coming in and allowing new licenses, well, here's another chance to make sure that some of these important issues are included in that. And you know I look, I understand, where we have got definitely have a strong voice in the industry, and we have a strong business to back it. And so,
Hmm.
my hope is that we as a company choose to move forward in a positive way there, and help be a part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we all have to do our part, and um, it's great to hear that, you know, uh, in the dark of global events, and the collective, sort of like blanket of grieving that we've all been put under, there is uh, still space for that progress, and hopefully after this, it'll just set up a foundation for us to come back even better. Um,
Yeah, and one other thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit is there's also been some neat
yeah,
opportunities that have come up. Myself as well as many of the other high level management people and employees in general at Seed and Smith. Cannabis and music, fit together really well, right? Um, and so my whole life, I'm a huge bluegrass fan, and jam band fan, and anything
yeah,
improvisational, right? I just think is so awesome. And being in Boulder, there's a really tight knit community of musicians here. It's a great place for that. And so just like going on brewery tours when I was younger and all that stuff, getting to see some of these amazing shows or sitting in jam circles with people that just so lucky to have that opportunity, just to even be in the same room, even though I can't play anywhere near as well as them. um,
totally.
but anyway, to watch all that get turned on its head overnight, and musicians and artists are just one group of people who literally overnight, no more work. It's gone. It's done. And now here we are, and it's almost a year, right? Where my buddy who plays banjo, right, just can't get a gig. It doesn't
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
And so we found some unique ways to sponsor live streams for artists
Oh,
and
nice.
musicians. Um, Obviously we can't gather people just like everybody else. But and we've been able to compensate them to do those live streams because we were deemed an essential business and because this demand went higher, right? Like there's no joke about it. Like Seed and Smith has done well, and so how do we take some of these people that we have great camaraderie with and support them as well. We've also really we've had some like tattoo artists and other people like that do designing for some of our logos for various strains, and we paid them to do that and been able to release like specialized T-shirts and hats with a grower's choice strain or an extractor's choice live resin or whatever it may be. And so I know it's small, but we're all better off if everybody does these small things, and that would kind of lift everybody up. And last thing I'll say on this is we had a real cool thing where we actually had a lot of our patients and a lot of our recreational customers comment to us through the dispensary that they want to do something as well. And
Mm.
so we started a program. The blunt way to say it is sorry, the blunt way to say it is joints for camp, right? I actually
Hey,
haven't made
nice.
that stupid pun yet, so there's a first. But anyway,
Nice, nice.
um, and so what we did is we ran a canned food drive, and I don't remember the exact number of what it was, but if you brought in 5 cans or something like that, we just gave you a free joint. And people got really
That's awesome.
excited about this, and so people started collecting cans and everything like that. And then we partnered up with the neighborhood organization that we're in at Seed and Smith, and we've donated thousands and thousands of cans here to our local neighborhood in Denver, to
Wow.
food drives that they were having, because we had our our larger extended family be able to bring in this stuff. And what, it cost us a joint, and we're doing well. So this is win-win-win, at least
Yeah.
at least the way I look at it. And
Oh,
we've had fun
man.
doing it.
Man, that's so touching. That sounds so awesome to, have the opportunity to uplift people in your community is such a great position to be in. And it's great to hear that you're using it in a constructive way. Right on, man. Now, where can our
Yeah.
viewers and our listeners keep up with those sorts of programs and all of the latest happening with Seed and Smith on the interwebs if they're not local to the Denver area, maybe?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
the best thing you
Boulder
can do is
area, rather.
always, and I think this is probably, like you check anything else out. We're very active in social media. Apologies. I personally am not a big social media guy. To each their own, right? It's all good.
Totally.
But I know you might have talked with, or at least exchanged some emails with Robbie, who has been our creative director at Seed and Smith for quite a while now. And quite honestly, a lot of these initiatives come through him, and they put them out over social, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, or, and I don't want to sound stupid saying the wrong thing
No
here,
worries. No
but
worries.
all that good stuff. And but ultimately, you can always check with us on our website to kind of see what's going on. Uh, through there you can also sign up for email and text alerts. And so, for example, we obviously can't or aren't allowed to have tours for the public now. We want to keep everybody safe, and our staff who's working safe. And quite honestly, we've had to spread out at our facility to make sure that people aren't packaging product within 6 feet of each other and everything like that. And
Yeah.
quite naturally, the hallways that the tour goes through is now an extended packaging room. But you can sign up to take virtual tours, and Robbie goes through like once every other week or so and does a live Zoom virtual tour. He'll take you into the grow rooms.
Oh,
He'll
nice.
show you what we're all about. You can ask questions. He'd be more than happy to talk about, any of these, social equity programs or artist programs that we've been doing. And, you know, you, literally you could talk over Zoom to the guy that's doing it. Right. Um,
Wow.
And so, yeah, people could make that connection that way.
Oh man, that's really cool. And so people can find out more about that, sign up for tours on the website, on Seed and Smith's website.
Yeah, seedandsmith.com.
Cool. Yeah,
All
that'll be in the
out.
description of this episode then. Man, that's so awesome. That's so cool that you're finding ways to stay connected with the community during everything. And I wish you and everyone over at Seed and Smith the best. Please continue to stay safe. Please continue the good work. Best of luck with that sustainability project. Definitely will be
It's a big one.
staying up
We'll
to
see
date
what
for
we
that.
can do. You know?
Yeah. I'm definitely going to keep my ears open for that one, man. Brooks, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And hey, whenever it's safe again, I will be the first to sign up for an in-person tour. I got you.
Well, RJ, yeah, whenever you want to come out here, we'll roll out the red carpet. Just thanks so much for the opportunity. It's been a pleasure talking with you this afternoon.
You got it, man. Just stick around right after I finish the stop the recording, just so I can say thank you to you again off the air. But thanks so much, man. Stay safe, and we'll catch you soon.
Thanks so much.
My thanks again to Brooks Lustig for joining me. If you are a member of the cannabis community and have a story you want to share with us, we would love to hear from you. You can reach the show at hashitout@TRICHOMES.com. You can help others find the show by taking a moment to subscribe to the podcast and write a review. You can also join the discussion with industry insiders and get your voice heard by joining the community at TRICHOMES.com and following us on all social media. Hash It Out is produced by David Fortin and presented by TRICHOMES.com. I'm your host, RJ, as always, and I'll catch you next time.